Okay, so we are done with the pores, and as you can see that we have a little bit of random areas that are not really that random, and we are gonna be fixing them in the future. But before we do that, okay, so there is this part where there are no pores. If you want to, you can just add a pore there. But yeah, this is basically how it looks. As you can see, we have not really added the pores on the ears, we have not added the pores on the nose, we have not added the pores on the eye socket, and we've also not added the pores on the lips and the neck. So these are some of the things that we've did. And if you actually want to check whether the depth of your pores are correct, you need to like set up a shader like this. So first thing first, you need to put the SSS method to random walk fixed radius. This is gonna be like much more accurate. And second thing, you need to make sure that your dimensions are actually equal to a real human face. So in this case, this is, you can see the dimensions that I have, and this is like much more accurate. Also the color, you can see the color that I'm using now. Again, this is not like you don't really need this color to be perfect. And the subsurface radius, you can see that I'm using the 0.35 and zero point 0.2 for the surface radius. Same goes for the subsurface color, actually 1.35 and 2, sorry, zero point 0.2. So this is it. And subsurface anisotropy is one, I have no idea what it does. It just sounds cool, so I've increased it. I haven't really seen the difference after removing and increasing it. So you can obviously just do your own research. And like you can see if the pores are actually deep enough, if the subsurface scattering is actually working or not. So if you were to just zoom in, you can see that each and every single one of these pores have this darker areas at the middle. And through this you can like get a idea whether these pores are like deep enough or not. In my case, I really wanted the deeps to be shallow, and I think these are good enough for me. Maybe in your case, you if you are using if you are creating a younger portrait, like a portrait of a younger person, maybe the pores are gonna be much more deeper. And right now I'm not really adding material to the eye, because we are gonna be adding the material after we are done texturing the eye. So yeah, the eyes are gonna be white. And if you are satisfied with the depth of your pores, we can just start we can just start breaking up the symmetry. So this is what I'm gonna be doing now in this video. You can see that we are going to be adding all the secondary shapes, we are going to be breaking up the symmetry. So there are going to be a whole lot of things that we are actually going to be doing. So first thing first, just lower down the subdivisions, because we really don't need to work in the highest subdivision. We can just do it in the lowest one, and it is just going to work. So first thing first, I am going to be start fixing the nose. And yeah, I mean, you know what I'm gonna do. Like, we are gonna be breaking up the symmetry. As you can see, I've already turned off the symmetry, and now I'm just adjusting the nose according to the reference. So I mean, right now the symmetry is on, but yes, I am. There is gonna be a part where we are gonna be breaking up the symmetry. So first thing first, I am like creating this depth thing, this like concave shape that we have on the nose. And yeah, now we are actually just gonna start adding all of these things, like you know uh, all of these secondary shapes that are unsymmetrical, basically. Is it unsymmetrical is a word, by the way, or is it non-symmetrical? I think non-symmetrical is the word, not the unsymmetrical. But yes, as you can see, we can like start adding these lines that you can clearly see are not symmetrical. So we can, now that we have pores, can break the symmetry. And now you know the reason why we've added the pores. Also, one of the things that you need to remember, now you don't really want to use the clay strip brush, because clay strip brush is just going to remove all the details, all the pore details. And try to use the draw brush with the lower strength. That's what I am gonna be using. If you, even if you are using a clay strip brush, by the way, you can just re-add the pores. Like, It just does not really take that long to add the pores in the smaller area. So you're actually gonna see me using the clay brush, the clay strip brush, because I'm much more comfortable with it, and just destroying the pores and then re-adding the pores. So that's not really gonna be that big of a issue if you were to just remove the pores. Like, it's still not going to be that big of a deal. Now I can actually add all the secondary shapes as well. So for example, all the wrinkles, all these shapes that you are actually looking at, I am trying to draw this to show you how much of how the nose is supposed to be. So we need to push this onto the left side in the x-axis, like you can see me doing right now. And we just need to see how much volume is supposed to get added. So like you can see, I need to put it back to the normal sculpt, like normal draw brush, and now I'm just starting to add these volumes. You can, if you want to, use the clay strip, but as you can see, if you were to start doing it, you're gonna have to do the smoothing thing, and it is also going to just get rid of the pores that you have, like this sharper edges, because you're gonna have to smooth it. So one of the things you can do is you can actually just increase the tip roundness. I mean, the clay is literally destroying everything beneath. The clay is definitely not the brush that you wanna use. But yeah, you can see how it is going in the diagonal and then coming down straight, kind of straight, not exactly straight. And that's what I've drawn it. So this is basically how I work. I draw the wrinkle first, or the particular part, like I mark it, and then I start adding the volumes in between, like you are seeing right now. So this is kind of the workflow that I use. I first mark it and then I start adding the volumes. So yeah, okay. You can actually just decrease the smooth, by the way, and it is gonna preserve some of your volumes a bit better. So, in decreasing the strength of the smooth brush is actually gonna be much more important now that you've added the pores. And yeah, now I'm just using the draw brush. By the way, the strength of the draw brush is pretty low. Otherwise, it's just gonna get out of control, and you don't want that. You need to make sure that, like, the strength of the brush is basically controllable, and you don't really have to use the smooth after the strength. So try to not actually do that. And yeah, we can actually start adding all these lines on the forehead, all these wrinkles. And this is where the camera view is gonna help us a lot, because we can exactly match how much of these lines we need to add. So yeah, we can also break up the symmetry in the ear, even though I feel like that I didn't really need it to, even though I did in this course. I didn't really needed to do that, because we are not gonna be seeing both of the ears simultaneously in the renders. So it didn't make sense to, break up the symmetry. I mean, if you really want to, you can, but in this case, I didn't really had to, but I did. For some reason, I did, and you're gonna see me breaking up the symmetry. So yeah, these are some of the things that I'm gonna do. You can see that I'm actually showing you that this is not a continuous line, and I've already talked about it before. In the skin, whenever you are gonna be connecting the pores as well, you don't want that to be a continuous line. You actually wanna break up these lines in several part. I mean, there is a possibility that there are gonna be a continuous line, but you need to make sure that you have a proper reference for it. In this case, you can clearly see that these lines on the forehead are not actually a continuous lines. So yeah, now that we don't have the symmetry, I can actually just create these wrinkles as well. So you can clearly see that's what I'm doing. And using the cameras are actually beneficial for for the secondary shapes as well. You can like see that it is actually pretty useful to do it like this. Now that we have the camera set up, we basically know the exact place where we want the wrinkles, so that we can actually mark it. As you can see, I only mark the wrinkles, by the way. I don't really use the camera view to sculpt the whole part. I only try to mark it. Again, you can obviously just change stuff with the symmetry, like I am doing right now. Even though I just undid the whole thing, you can still just change whatever you want. You can just go back to the lowest subdivision and change your primary shapes. It's like you always have the option to do it. It's not like that you added the pores, you added the details, now you cannot go back to your primary shapes. You can always go back to your primary shapes. You can just lower down the subdivision and start sculpting it. It is not going to affect your secondary and tertiary shapes. So that's actually one of the benefits. Now I can just start adding all the small little details that I'm seeing by the way. Right now I'm only marking it though. I'm not really going into the details because we still need to break up the symmetry. We still need to do a little bit of changes in the primary shapes with the symmetry off. But yes, I can like start to mark stuff like I am doing right now. So yeah, I mean, again, we are doing it digitally, so you have the freedom, you have the option to go into the details first and then still be able to change all the bigger shapes. But I don't really recommend you. I still recommend you to make sure that your bigger shapes actually works first and then you go into the smaller shapes. In this case, as you can see, I am, because the symmetry is off, I am like trying to figure out the likeness still. I am like still moving all the bigger shapes. Even though you might not consider it a bigger shape, I would still say actually let's just consider it a secondary shape, right? Like I am breaking up the symmetry and I am like still trying to match it as close as I possibly can. And that's just what I'm gonna be doing in this video. We are gonna be adding a whole lot of stuff. We are gonna be adding a whole lot of wrinkles and everything. And you can see this marking that he have on his eyes, like above the eyes on the eyebrow area. I am also marking it. So yeah, I'm not really adding or subtracting the volume that you can see around the eyes. I am just like marking all these things so that it would be easier for us to understand. And you can clearly see the difference in volume. So that's what I'm trying to add here right now. And yeah, this is volume is gonna be on the other side as well. So in this case, I am enabling the symmetry again. Um, Yeah, as you can see, I am like trying to mimic the volume that you can see in the reference. And also you can see that I'm only using the draw brush because draw brush does not like remove the details that are underneath. So this is actually pretty useful. Now that we've created this bump, you can see on the other side, we've created this bump by adding this volume. So we need to remove this volume a little bit so that we actually don't create this bump on the other side. Right now I'm sculpting on the left area, but I'm actually looking on the right area to actually make sure that the silhouette is looking okay and it does not look like we basically create this bumpy kind of a thing. Yeah, in the future we are obviously gonna go into the skin, but before we go into that, I think it's much more important to, get much more closer to the likeness. I mean, for some reason, after adding the pores, he started to look like much more like he started to look like much more closer to the character that we are trying to create. I mean, by character I meant to say Amit Ji. Amit Ji is his name. So yeah, now we can also break up the symmetry in the nose. We can actually pull out the lip like you can see in the reference. So these are all the things that we are free to do now, now that we've added the pores. There are so many sentences that I've already said it and I still just, say it in between. This is actually kind of a bad habit, I think, but yeah, it's kind of okay. As you can see, I am again gonna do a face set thing. So I have drawn a little bit of area and then I've just grown it so that I can basically isolate this area. And this is, I think, one of the easiest way to separate out the bottom lip with the upper lip. And yeah, now we can actually just start doing all the changes that we want to do. Again, you can like break up the symmetry in the nose. Not can, you should now because we have the freedom to do it. So you're gonna see that I am actually gonna be okay. Not, I don't think. Okay, this is embarrassing. Now I'm actually changing the view. So let's see what else do I do. Okay, so on his right part on the eye socket, you can see this volume coming down that you cannot see on the left side. So let me just talk about the volume and okay, I am like still moving around a bit. Okay, so this volume that you can see, right? I am gonna be adding this weird. I don't know what do you even call it. Like, is this even weird? I've never really seen that in other person. Maybe it's one of those things that he is the only guy who have it. Maybe it is kind of a deformation because of specs. I don't know. I haven't really. I don't have specs, so I don't know if this is something that the spectacles can do. Um, but yes, you can see this volume that you have, and we're gonna be start adding this volume now. So as you can see, I am basically just putting the sculpt in the similar angle, and now I'm just gonna start adding these volumes. So okay, I am like still rotating. This is actually one of the habits that sculptors have. Trust me, you're also gonna have this habit. You're gonna be like before sculpting, let me rotate it 10 times. Okay, before adding that volume, I'm actually trying to add this volume on the eye socket. You can clearly see the volume that I'm talking about. There is a highlighted speck on that particular area. If you were to just look at the reference. Okay, now, okay, this is one of the weird thing as well. Blender actually takes time to change the image, which is so weird. Like, I am changing the image, and I'm also working on a 52 million mesh. I mean, which one should be more lagging? Blender is like, yeah, 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 sculpting is gonna be smooth, but changing the image is gonna be laggy. So, Blender takes time to, change the image for some reason. But yes, right now you can see what I am trying to sculpt. I am just trying to mark it first. Again, I don't really like to, just use the draw brush and start adding the volumes right away. Actually like to just um, mark the volume first, and then I just use the draw brush and or the clay strip brush. You can use any of those and just start adding the volumes basically. So as you can see in this case, I'm using the clay strip brush because there are no pores in this area. And even if I were to just destroy the pores, I can re-add them again. So you're gonna see me doing this a whole lot of time. You're gonna see me destroying the pores and then re-adding them because it just does not really take that long to add pores in these smaller areas. Okay, now you can see that I've started adding this volume that I was talking about. Um, Again, I'm marking it. I'm not really adding the volume right away. I am okay. Now I'm adding the volume. As you can see now, because I marked it, I know where the volume is supposed to go. So yeah, this is basically the workflow that I use. Obviously, if you are different, you can right away start adding the volumes. But I just cannot, or I just like to, do it like this. I actually like to mark it first and then try to figure out the volume later. But yes, this is not like a rule or something. Again, I've talked about this like many times before. This is not a rule and you have to follow. This is just a workflow that I'm showing you that I personally like to do. So if you feel like this is a workflow that you actually like, you can just try to mimic this. And this is just a tool, that I'm giving you. Maybe you will have a better workflow, but yes, this is how I actually like to work, and you can just try to see if it actually works for you or not. So now I'm adding these two things that are coming out, um, and I am again just marking them. I'm not really adding the volumes right now. Okay, so you're gonna see that I'm gonna have to change these markings later because I realize that I have not added them in the right way. So yeah, these are some of the things that I'll change. And as you can see, because I've added those volumes, I've kind of disturbed the I've kind of disturbed this silhouette from the cheek, so now I have to fix it, and it is totally okay. Like you can see, we have the pose, but we can still work on the bigger shapes. If you want to, if you are comfortable, you can just go back to subdivision, but I'm just working on it with the grab brush. So yeah, these are the option. These are some of the benefits you have when you are working digitally, that you can anytime you can just go back to your bigger shapes and just change it. So yeah, right now I'm just marking these areas, as you can see, and I am gonna be removing the previous marking because this is much more clear in this way. So okay, so I had the symmetry on, so I have to remove it from the other side. But you get the idea. I sometimes forget whether the symmetry is on or not, and it must have happened to you, right? There's no way I'm the only one dumb enough here who forgets the symmetry is on or off. But yeah, now you can see that we can actually look into the volume from both of the side, and this is not like I'm not doing this with the symmetry on. Right now the symmetry is off, so I can actually just start adding the volumes for both of these areas individually, and that's what I'm doing. That's what I am actually adding the volumes for. Yeah, you can also figure out a little bit of skin, by the way, with the way the light is interacting with with the character. You can just figure out a little bit of skin, and you can like figure out a little bit of directionality in the skin. So this is also one of those benefits that you are going to have with images, with references. Okay, I am now doing the same thing to the other side as well. I should have changed the I should have changed the reference, by the way, for the other side, but it's okay. I think I can like figure it out from this angle as well. I mean, there isn't really anything for me to explain right now, other than that I'm actually looking at the references and trying to figure out what are the things that are like working and what are the things that are not working. And by working and not working, I actually meant to say things that are matching and things that are not matching. Like you can see by putting the reference in the similar angle, you can just figure out what are the things that are different in your portrait and what are the things that are different in the reference. So yeah, these are all the things that I am gonna be making sure that I got right. So you can see all these concave shapes that you have on the nose, right? So like let me draw these. So yeah, that's how I am actually looking at the volumes right now. So now we're gonna be adding these. I think now that I've drawn it, I really hope that I've started adding these. By the way, am I gonna add those? Yeah, I think I'm actually gonna. Yep, I am gonna be removing this volume in order to achieve that concaveness that you have on the nose right now. And this is basically what I am gonna be doing in this video. I am gonna be just looking at these references and trying to figure out if I can explain you everything. If I would have actually explained you everything, it would have taken a bit more longer, but you can clearly see the volumes that I'm adding and why I am adding, right? So the volume that I'm adding right now, you can clearly see that in the reference there is a volume there, and I am actually trying to mimic it. Okay, so right now what I'm trying to say is you can see the angle between the nasal labial fold where it starts and the nostril where it ends. Like you can see this angle, right? And there is a difference between this angle in our portrait and in the reference. So we need to make sure that we actually get this angle right. That's why I am actually pushing it out, so that we basically get this angle correct with the reference. Now you can see the angle is actually pretty similar, right? It is actually kind of similar now. So these are some of the things that I actually look at, whether the angle of some of these things are right or wrong. And that's how I basically approach the portrait. Now in this particular image we have a camera setup for this, so if you really want to, you can just go into that particular camera view, or you don't really need to. Like you can see how much of the volumes you need to add and how much of the volumes you need to subtract. In this case, I felt like that we need to have a bit more volume on the nose, so I am just adding that volume. And I mean, this is not a rocket science. You can clearly see the volumes that I'm trying to add, right? So yeah, these are some of the things that I feel like I actually needed to change, and that's what I'm doing. So we are definitely getting closer to the likeness. Like I can already see him getting so much more awesome. And just like you are, by the way, who have bought this course, you are as awesome as him. Actually, you are better. You're much more awesome than him. I'm like giving you a little bit of credit so that you basically buy my other courses. And trust me, the other courses are not going to have the voiceovers like this. I really hope this is not annoying, by the way. Are voiceovers that annoying? Because trust me, if you would have seen the original audios on all these videos, you would have just not buy the course. But yeah, right now I'm talking about this particular volume that I've just drawn. And you can see how straight that particular area on the nose was. I've just drawn the line, so I need to make sure that I have that in my portrait as well. So I am gonna try to achieve the similar thing. You can see there is this bump, this concave shape that we've also seen from the different angle, by the way. So in order to achieve that concave shape, I had to do it. And yeah, on the other side, you can see that it is pretty straight. So we need to make sure that this volume comes out, right? Because that is the only way we'll be able to make it a bit straighter, like we have in the reference. So these are some of the things that I'm looking at right now, if the silhouette is correct or not. I've already talked about it. Before the volumes, I usually just look at the silhouettes, and that's how I figure out if the portrait is actually closer to the real thing or not. And yeah, and now as you can see, I have started adding these straighter lines. And again, after adding these crease, I am actually just removing some of the again, not removing but smoothing these lines to see if it is working or not. And as you can see from the straight view, we need to make sure that it is looking okay. And yeah, I think it actually is looking okay. We obviously need to do a little bit of massaging on these places to make sure that the volumes are correct. But yes, we are like getting there slowly. Now that we've broken up the symmetry, we are like getting all these silhouettes correct slowly. So yeah, we are definitely in the right direction. I don't think like any there should not be any confusion, right? With this workflow, I've shown you how to match the cameras and I've shown you how to add the pores. And right now we are actually on the third subdivision. We are not working in the highest subdivision because that way we are not going to be breaking up or destroying the pores. So pores are like super important. You can actually add the pores later, but with the symmetry on, actually the problem that you're gonna face is with the symmetry on. If you were to just add a little bit of volume in some of those places, and you start adding pores in those areas, you're gonna realize that the areas which don't have the same amount of volume on the other side, the pores are just not gonna show up. So yeah, that's basically the reason you have to do the pose with the symmetry on, because you don't really want to do the pose two times, right? So yeah, that's basically the reason. Now I'm adding this line that you can clearly see we have in the reference. So yeah, you can like see these lines that I've added, and it actually is matching with the reference. So that's pretty nice. Even without the camera view, we were actually able to create these lines pretty accurately. So I've told you, you have to sometimes just believe on your eyes, believe in your judgment skills. But yes, cameras are obviously there to help us. And again, I'm in my favorite area. This area is literally my kryptonite. I'm telling you, I've fixed this area so many times. It just doesn't really want to get fixed. And that's why I think I'm not like one of the best sculptors yet, because I personally feel like if it was like Chris Costa or Rafael Gazzetta, he would have been able to do this, I think, in one or two go. But yeah, this is something that I am like still learning, but I mean, I know how to like get that particular shape. It's just that I need more practice, and practice is obviously the key. You need to make sure that you actually don't stop ever practicing, even if you are like creating a big project like this that is taking like months to complete. You need to make sure that before you go to sleep, just do a practice cult for like, I don't know, half an hour, at least, so that you would still be in the practice of creating a face or a body from nothing. In this case, we've obviously used the base mesh because I feel like if you are someone who is an intermediate sculptor, you know how to already create a face from a sphere. But if you feel like that you don't know, then not then, but then I am going to be creating a course for the complete beginners. So that course is going to be the next thing that I'm going to create. So if you are someone who actually don't know how to create a face from the base, not the base but the face from the sphere, you can actually just buy that particular course. Or there are so many like YouTube tutorials out there, you can just watch any of those. But if you feel like that you want to support me or anything, I am going to be creating a course on that where we are going to also create realistic skin like this. So yes, that course is basically going to cover the whole portrait creating thing as well, but for the beginners. And I'm gonna be going into the much more detail in that particular course, maybe much more detailed than this one. That course is not gonna contain the likeness, so the sculpting part is gonna be pretty fast. In this case, because I am like creating a likeness, I need to make sure that each and every single volume basically resembles him. But yeah, the future course that I'm going to be creating is not going to contain any of the likeness, so that sculpting part just going to go pretty quickly. And yeah, again, I'm just working on the nose, so this is one of those things that I basically work on for like a little bit of time, and you can see the difference in silhouette and a whole lot of things. But yes, all of these things are actually gonna get fixed in the future, so don't you worry about it. Okay, in this case, you can see the speck on the nose, basically indicating that there is a flatter part on the outer surface, right? Like you can see the highlight on the nose. And because of that highlight, I figured it out that there is this flatter area, and that's why I'm actually adding this volume. Like you can see the speck on the nose, right? And I am trying to create the same spec on my portrait as well. It is actually coincidental, but the lighting is actually kind of matching. Like you can see the spec area on the reference. I'm only talking about the nose, and we are also getting the same spec on the portrait as well. So I am trying to match the spec right now. You can see the spec right on the nose. So this is basically what I'm trying to match right now. And I think this is just a coincidental thing that that the lighting basically matches on the reference and on the portrait. So this is one of the coolest thing that actually have happened, totally accidental, by the way. I'm not like doing this on purpose, but yeah. Okay, again, I am just adding these volumes, and I feel like that the nose definitely does need a little bit of work. And you can see that I'm like still adding these volumes that I feel like needed to be added. Okay, so you can see there is this depth in that area where I've just added this. Okay, so once we are actually done sculpting, with the symmetry on, and once we feel like that it is time, we can work on the skin. Because when we start working on the skin, we are gonna be, adding, not adding, but connecting the pores. We're gonna be doing a whole lot of wrinkles and stuff. And yeah, that is also going to be fun. But one of the thing that I'll say is it is a back and forth process, which means if we were to stop sculpting right now, if we were to feel like that, yes, we are done sculpting all the volumes with the symmetry of, now we should actually go into the skin. There is going to be a period, there's going to be a time period where you'll feel like that you need to go back to the volumes again, So it is not a streamlined process, right? You have to go back and forth, and you might actually have to remove some of the pores and then re-edit. In this case, I actually didn't had to do it. I've destroyed some of the pores while sculpting, but that's not the similar thing. Sometimes just the pores, what do you call it, the pores size does not work, so you might have to smooth everything out and redo all the pores. In this case, I actually have nailed the pores on the first go, so that was a pretty nice thing. If you feel like that your pores are actually either a bit too big or a bit too small, don't worry, just go back and just to do all the pores again. Create a different files for the pores actually, so that if you were to mess things up, you can actually go back to the original file again. And yeah, this is going to be a streamlined process, not a streamlined process actually. This is not going to be a streamlined process. You might have to go back to your basic shapes. Even after you are done with the skin details, you might have to go back to your primary shapes, and it is totally okay to do it. In this case, I don't know if I actually have gone back to the primary shapes, but yes, you definitely can, and it is totally fine. Like you can see that even after the pores, I am actually creating all these secondary shapes, so it is totally fine. We have the tertiary shapes on our skin, but we are actually still working on the secondary shapes. So this is one of the things that, again, I've already talked about it, is one of those benefits that you get with the digital sculpting. So why not just take the benefit, right? um okay, so now that I've worked on the nose, I gonna change the body part, sorry, the face part, by the way, or I'm just still gonna be working on the nose? I don't know. Okay, I think, okay, lowering down or maybe increasing the subdivision. Okay, so I think I was at third subdivision. Now we are at the fourth. So that we basically get much more polygons to work with. And yeah, that's what I'm doing. You can see that we are actually adding this shape, like trying to add this shape, and trying to add this volume. In this case, I already have this volume marked a bit. That's why I was actually able to add this volume with the clay strip, and also because there are no pores in this area, I am actually just using the clay strip brush. In the future, you're gonna see that I'm gonna be removing all this hardness from this brush, but yes, right now I'm not doing that. As you can see, there isn't really anything that I'm doing that is not like self-explanatory. All I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to match all these volumes with the references, and maybe you are gonna be able to do it much more quickly than I am doing. So it is not something like super tough to look at. You can like try to figure out why I am creating these volumes, and why I felt the need to add these volumes. And by the way, you can see if you were to have if you were to have a little bit of lower strength on your brush, you're gonna get much more control over your strokes. So yeah, you can see that's basically what's happening right now. And there is this line on the nose you can like partially see, and that's what I'm trying to add. So yeah, these are some of the things that I'm doing. So again, with the volumes, I'm also trying to mark all these stuff that actually is going to help us with the likeness. So volumes are not the only thing that I'm changing right now. I'm basically just adding all the things that I possibly can now that we don't obviously have the symmetry on. And yeah, that's basically what the workflow is right now. If you feel like that I'm not like doing it correctly, maybe your judgmental skills are different than me, and it is totally fine because right now I can see a little bit of mistakes that I would have actually changed if I were to do this likeness again. But yeah, I've told you, sometimes you work on one area for so long that your brain literally stops functioning, and that's why a break is important. I've already talked about it, by the way. After a break, you start to see all those things that you might not be able to see when you are just continuously working on it. So yeah, take a break, because right now I can see so many other things that I would have changed. Maybe I'm gonna be doing it in the future. Right now I'm just doing a voiceover, so I cannot remember if I were to change all those stuff that I'm looking right now. But yeah, I can like talk about that the nose is still not correct, and it needs to be done a bit better. But yeah, maybe I'm gonna do the nose in the future. Who knows? Like, I've totally forgotten what do I do in the future. I mean, in terms of fixing the nose, I know that I'm gonna be working on the skin and everything. But yeah, you cannot remember each and every single step that you did in the making of this portrait, right? So yeah, now that we've actually worked on the right side of the nose, it's time to work on the left side. And you can see all these markings and all these volumes, right? So I am like removing this volume that you can clearly see we have in this particular area. So yeah, first thing first, let's actually go into that particular frame where we can see this volume. So you can see that we've added this volume in the lower part of the area, but instead it was actually at the above once we looked it through the camera. So that's why the cameras are kind of important. Now I have to re-add this volume again. So yeah, it is basically how we are gonna be doing all the things. All the things that you are seeing that needs to be added, all these volumes are actually gonna just make sense now. Okay, so we can actually subtract this volume that you can like see in this particular reference, and you can also see this bump. I don't know what do you even call it, but this skin that is coming out. This is, I don't know, is this a mole? It could potentially be a mole, I don't know, but whatever this is. Okay, so as you can see, instead of marking this time, I've straight away started adding volumes, and the reason was because the camera was pretty much matched, so I didn't really need to, mark the volumes. I mean, this is just a workflow thing. You can, if you want to, mark first and then start adding the volumes. So yeah, this is totally up to you. This is like one of those freedoms, like one of those artistic and one of those workflow freedom that you have as an artist. So yeah, just try to make sure that you are comfortable doing it, right? It is just a workflow that if you feel like is a better workflow than your previous workflow. So yeah, just try to implement it in your workflow. I've said workflow a bit too many times in this sentence, but you get the idea. Like, if you feel like that this way of creating thing is actually better, then try to implement it. And if you feel like no, this is not, I feel like is the right way, and my older way was actually better, then yes, stick to that, because everyone is different, and everyone is gonna be. Everyone's how do you say it? Everyone's okay. I'm again gonna forget the word. um yeah, everyone's comfort zone is, everyone's comfort zone is different. So yes, try to make sure that whatever you feel like is more comfortable, whatever works for you, is gonna be the better option. So we are actually working on the nose again, and one of those things that I am doing right now is just trying to figure out what else I can change, because there are like so many options. And this is also one of those things that people might actually get confused. Like, I am seeing hundreds of things that are not matched. So what should I match first? I don't think it actually matters that much. Just pick an area and try to make sure that you go through all of these areas one by one. Just don't complete the nose first and then go to the eyes. Just make the nose a bit better and then go to the eyes and then go to the lips. So just keep cycling around all of these parts so that one won't actually get lag behind. And yeah, this is basically how you would do it. Just cycle around all of these body parts, and it would actually be much more easier to do it that way. Just like, don't complete one entirely, because you won't be able to complete it. Trust me, that's not how the likeness is gonna work. Just cycle around all these body parts. Okay, now what I am trying to do is I am basically seeing the thickness of the ear, and as you can see, that's not how thick the ears are supposed to be. You can literally put the finger in the ear and try to figure it out. Like put the index finger and your thumb in between in between these spaces, and you will realize that this is not how thick the ears are supposed to be. So yeah, you need to make sure that you actually get the thickness right. In this case, I'm not really gonna refine anything, but I am still trying to get the thickness right so that the SSS would be much more accurate. And you're gonna see that I am gonna make it thin, but I am still gonna make sure that like I'm gonna make sure that it is thin enough, but I am still not gonna refine it as much because I already kind of knew that in my case the ears are not as important. So that's why I won't actually refine it. In your case, if ears are important, then definitely you should refine it. And yeah, but you are gonna see that I'm like working on it and I'm trying to make it thin. So yeah, I think okay. So just for the sake of performance, even though whenever I'm working with these normal brushes, normal Blender brushes, it didn't really give me any of the performance issue. I feel like Blender is actually good enough that you can work on a 52 million polygon mesh without the performance problem. I mean, with a good enough PC. But if you feel like that your PC is not good enough, you obviously can just hide some of the parts that you are not working on. So yeah, hiding the parts are actually so convenient, like you are not going to believe. Maybe when you'll try, you'll realize that yes, it is actually one of those solutions that you might actually be desperately trying to figure out. So yes, right now, as you can see, I am just trying to make this part thin enough so that the SSS would actually work. Even though in the end, as you can see the thickness, by the way, that's why I have the X-ray on so that you can see the thickness. Like you can see how thick this part actually is. And now I'm just pushing this in so that the thickness would actually be a bit less. Right, you can see that we are like pushing it in just for the sake of thickness. Again, I'm not really trying to um, get this perfect looking from the behind. The only thing that I have in mind right now is to actually get the thickness right. So yes, thickness is basically what the priority here and not the entire look from the behind, because obviously we're not gonna be seeing the ears from the back. So it does not make sense to have this refined from the back, right? This is one of those options that we have as an artist. Like if we are not gonna be seeing what's behind the ear, there is no point adding it, right? So yeah, you can see how I am actually removing the volume in this area, and it is basically making it a bit thinner. So like you can see that it definitely have made the part a bit thinner. So yes, that's what I'm doing right now. Again, in my case, I'm only talking about my case. I'm not saying that ears are not important. Ears are obviously one of the most important body part. I'm just saying that in my case, the ears are not important because the hairs are gonna be covering the ears up. So yes, if it is important in your character, obviously try to spend more time. Refine it as much as you can to make it look better. In my case, the only thing matters is the subsurface scattering at the ear. So, that's why I'm doing it. So, yeah, you can see how back this part is. And if you were to get something like this, yes, just re-add the volume and you'll be fine. In this case, I don't know what I should talk about. Like right now, I'm just thinking about the thickness of the ears. And yeah, I don't really want to like say the same thing again and again because you already know that I'm working on thickness, right? So what else I could add? In this case, as you can see that the brush is basically poking through, and in order to fix that, I've used the front face only mask. What this do, this actually only, how do I say it? This only affect the part which is shown, which is basically shown in the screen. Like if there is something behind that particular object, it is not gonna affect that. So front face only is actually one of the useful things if your brush is, poking through a thinner object. I really hope that makes sense. My English, I really need to improve it. But yeah, I think I was actually able to explain it right. I don't know. I mean, come on. That was a nice attempt at least. So you can like still see that I am like still trying to figure out if it is thick enough. Sorry, thin enough. And that is the only priority I have right now. And yeah, maybe there would be a better way of sculpting here. I'll actually try to do an experiment where I don't have to really, increase or decrease the thickness afterwards. So yes, if I were to figure out a better way of creating ears, I will definitely share it with you on my YouTube channel. But yes, right now, as you can see, I have to manually adjust the thickness, and it is totally fine. I really don't mind. It didn't really took that long, by the way. So I think it's okay. And also, you as an artist should enjoy sculpting, even if it is just to adjust the thickness of the ear. Seriously. Okay, now I think we are actually kind of done with the ear. So let's see how it looks in the render view. And yeah, you can see that we are actually getting some of the subsurface if you were to just look at it from behind. And this is what I actually wanted. You can, if you want to, by the way, you can just try and rotating it. So for example, I am doing it right now, as you can see, and you are actually getting those SSS. So yeah, this is basically what I wanted, and it is actually working. So it is good. If you feel like you want more SSS, you can paint a SSS map. In this case, in this workflow, we are not gonna be creating an SSS map because I feel like each and every part of our face basically have the same amount of SSS, because the density does not increase or decrease, right? I mean, it's the same skin on the entire body. The reason we get more SSS on the ear is because of the thickness of the ear, and that's what I actually wanted to simulate in this one. That's why in this course, I'm not really going to be painting a different SSS map. We are going to be using one value for the whole face. So yeah, this is one of those things that I actually am going to be doing, not really going to paint out a different SSS map. Because if you think about it, like it's the same skin, right? So it should definitely have the similar SSS. And the reason you get more subsurface scattering on the ears or on the corner of your fingers is because the skin is actually thin there, and also there is no bone, obviously. So yeah, that's I think is one of those reasons that you actually get more SSS, subsurface scattering. Just in case if you don't know what SSS is, subsurface scattering in one of those areas. So yes, instead of like creating a mask for the ears, I'm just trying to make sure that it is thin enough to pass the light and create that wonderful looking triple S SSS or subsurface scattering effect. And it obviously look awesome, by the way. And I've already shown you the settings. You should actually try to use the settings that I am doing, and like don't try to create the SSS mask or map. That's just not realistic. Like I personally feel like it's not. You obviously can try. There's not anything wrong in it, but yes, I this is just my personal opinion, and I feel like the SSS should actually be consistent on all the body parts. But yes, there is no like boundaries. You can if you feel like. There is nothing wrong with it. Again, now I think I'm actually gonna work on the ear. So as you can see, even after so much of sculpting, the image is not matching, and yes, I might need to adjust the ears. I think maybe put that in front a bit, or maybe not, or maybe yes. Yeah, yeah. I'm actually gonna adjust the cameras. So as you can see, that's what I'm doing. I'm actually adjusting the camera now. Like after so much time of sculpting. I am still gonna be adjusting the camera. It's okay, right? It is totally fine. I've told you it could happen anytime. So yeah, you can like see where exactly these markings are and where exactly you need to add these volumes. As you can see, I'm not using the symmetry here. I should have used the symmetry here because I didn't realize at this point that ears are not that important. Even though I actually kind of realized, that's why you can see that I'm not really doing as much work in the ear. So I should have also thought about not breaking the symmetry and just do the ears from the one side. So yeah, I was like saying that I would have just used the symmetry in this part and be done with. But yeah, I'm gonna do the both ears separately. So also you're gonna see that I'm not really gonna think about likeness as much. I am basically just breaking up the surface of the ears so that it would look a bit better instead of focusing on the likeness. You're gonna see that I'm just like breaking up the surface so that in the end, even if the likeness won't be achieved, at least it look decent enough, you know, even though we're not gonna be seeing the ears. Okay. So yeah, you can see why I am actually removing this volume. And like some of the things that I do, I really don't know why I really don't know what to explain. Like for example, in this area, you know why I'm decreasing the volume here, right? Like there is no explanation needed that because it is like in the reference, I have to do it here. I mean, you know, it's in the reference, right? But yeah, okay. So by the way, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is about to be released. What do you think? Is it gonna be a better movie than the first one or not? Because the first one is actually pretty good, right? And it is like super hard to create a better movie than the first one, which already was a pretty successful movie. Like if you were to think about it, I personally think there are only few franchises who were able to create a movie better than the first one. So, for example, Dark Knight was actually one of those example. Spider-Man 2 was one of those example. Like Godfather, some people like it, some people don't. But yes, Godfather was also one of those examples. It was not better, but I think it was equally good. So yeah, and that's just my personal opinion, by the way. You might think that Godfather 2 was not as great, but I think it was decent enough. Uh, is there any other example where the second movie was actually better than the first one? I kind of want to remember. Like the Zack Snyder version of the Justice League was definitely better, but it was the same movie. Like it was not the second part. Yeah. So yeah, in this case, as you can see, I am using the crease brush, even though I don't really use the crease brush on the front, like on the face, because I feel like it pinches the geometry a bit closer, and there are like pinching issues in the geometry. So I personally don't really like to use the crease brush, but in this case, because I knew that the ears are not gonna be visible, I feel like that it is okay to do it here. But yes, if you feel like that you can relax the geometry enough after the pinching, you definitely can use it. Again, it's just my personal way of approaching things like this. If you are comfortable and you feel like that the geometry is not really affecting as much, then go ahead and use the brush. I mean, the brush is obviously there for something, right? It's not like because it is pinching the geometry, you're not really supposed to use it. So as you can see, there are clear like there are again difference in the symmetry. Like the right ear is definitely different from the left one. So we are gonna have to separately work on it. Again, I didn't really had to, but it's okay. It's like totally fine. Um, yeah. Actually, one of the weird thing about the Amit ji is I was not really able to find a whole lot of images where he was not wearing the specs, and also where his ears were shown. Like I had trouble finding those images. So there are like pretty few images where the ears were showing, which is like weird. I mean, why would you want to hide your ears with your hairs? Like, this is actually also one of the weirder thing about him. But yeah, like you can see how big the hairs are. You literally cannot see his ears from the front. I don't know why. You definitely can see it from the side, as you can see, but it is actually so hard to see the ears from the front. Okay, so yeah, right now I'm just like working on the ear from the right side. And yeah, you can like see how the shape of the ears are, and I'm just gonna try to create it over here. So I mean, I personally feel like that you should watch it, and I'll just take a break really because I feel like there is nothing else for me to say right now. I'm just like adding the volumes according to the reference, and I personally feel like there isn't really anything for me to explain right now. Like, if it was for anatomy, by the way, if it was for the anatomy of the ears, I would have talked about it. But again, this course is not for a total beginner, and this is more of a workflow course, like what should be the workflow. And there might actually be people who have bought this course that are going to be better than me at sculpting, but this is one of those workflow that I figured out is actually worth looking at, because Chris Costa do it that way, right? And if he's doing it, then I am not going to say that this course is a total, like this workflow is a total um unpractical, because this is not about practicality. I've already talked about it. Actually, this course is more about getting that self confidence that you can actually create a good looking portrait on your own without having to rely on third party textures. So for example, if you are a sculptor, if you are a beginner, and you really want to push yourself, like you want to take a next step and you want to create realistic portrait, but you don't really want to spend the money on the skin packs, right? Like there are some textures out there, like for example texturing XYZ. That's how you would be able to like push yourself and take the next step by creating everything on your own and improving your confidence, improving your skills. And yeah, you can actually just go to your friends and mock about it that I've created all these single pores and all these single lines on the skins on my own. Would you have been able to do it? And that guy is gonna say, no, I would have needed a skin texture pack to do it. And you'll be like, huh, I am superior than you. So, you can literally bully them for this. This course literally makes you superior. So, why not invest in it, right? Huh. Okay, so now that we've talked whole lot of crap, I think, again, I still feel like that there is nothing for me to comment it. I'm literally doing the same thing that I've did with the previous year. Like, you can see me again removing this volume. Yeah, right now, the only focus is to create the ear a bit better looking and not just how it used to look like. Uh, Likeness is definitely not one of those things that I'm focusing on right now. I mean, you definitely can see that I'm taking the reference from the same person, but yes, at this point, I've realized that likeness is not one of those things that I really need to invest in it. And that's why you're gonna see that I'm not really gonna spend time in the ears. But yes, some of these parts like this, like what I'm doing right now, is gonna take its time. And yeah, this is, I mean, again, I am actually getting like blank, like what to say, because there isn't really anything to say. I'm just like trying to match the ear. I'm just like trying to make sure that the ears look decent enough, even if they are not gonna be seen, it still looks like that time has been spent in the ears. So that's how I'm actually doing it. Okay, now you can see there is this lack of volume in this particular area, right? Like you can see it right here. There is a shadow in this, and you can clearly see that there is this concave kind of a shape. So that's why I'm actually removing some of the volumes from that particular area. And yeah, s- think that's just okay. So now we're gonna be adding some of the volumes in this. You can see the amount of volume we have in the reference. So I think it obviously makes sense to add the similar kind of a volume in this particular area. And that's what I'm doing. As you can clearly see, this is where I am marking first because, yep, again, I forgotten that the symmetry was on. But yes, again, I'm marking first because I feel like in this particular area, marking is actually gonna be the better workflow here. So yes, that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, I am also like creating those lines that you are seeing at the end of this particular area, at the end of this shape. Okay, so in order to actually, okay, what am I doing? I think right now I'm adding okay, I'm removing this volume. As you can see, yes, 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 you can clearly see from this particular view that you have this sharp concave kind of a shape, and that's what I'm trying to achieve right now. I've also drawn that, by the way, so just in case if you are confused, I have also like drawn it to make sure that it looks clear what I'm trying to do. And yeah, that's what I just did right now. So these are some of the things that that are gonna be like self-explanatory, but I still feel like that I can like say what I'm doing so that it would be easier for you to understand. Like right now, you can see that the position of this is not right, but I think it's still okay because I remember removing this area and then re-adding it, but right now it is totally fine. As you can see that I've just realized that this is not okay, and now I'm just gonna smooth it out and redo it. So that's what I was talking about. And there is this semi-circular shape that you can see we have over here. So I am gonna add it now, as you can see. And also I need to remove the volume from this particular area. These are some of the things that you can see me doing. So I am actually smoothing the curricular part out because there was some, I think, overlapping geometry. But yes, we are back with this particular volume. Actually, I have no idea what to even call it. Like, what is this shape? This is something that I haven't really seen in other person. Like, I've made decent amount of portraits. I mean, you must not have seen those portraits because most of them were just like speed sculpts, but I haven't really seen this particular part in any of those guys. I mean, there are some like some variations and marks on the faces of people, but this is something that I've never really seen before. So yeah, this is something new for me actually. I've never really encountered this before in a reference, and this is actually fun. Adding these volumes is fun. One of the thing is you don't really need to add it like 100% accurately, because in our case we don't have a image that is like high resolution one which can clearly show us how exactly this shape is looking. So some of these things are actually guesswork. As you can like see, I am kind of guessing how this volume is supposed to go. So you can like see that I am not 100% trying to get it right. I'm just trying to make sure that it is there and it looks kind of okay, because we don't have an image that is high resolution enough to show us exactly how the forms are going. I mean, you can get a little bit of idea, but yes, I am just putting it there just for the sake of having it there. It is just gonna help us with the likeness. And yeah, I'm not really trying to match it 100% because I don't have enough information about it. So matching it 100% is kind of hard to do. Again, you can see that I've removed the pores from that particular area because I feel like this part is not gonna have any of the pores, and that's why I've removed from this area. And yeah, um, okay, now you can see I felt like that there was this distance between the eye bag and I don't even know what to call this area, but there was this distance. That's why I'm actually creating that distance, and now I'm just filling up this area to make this a bit smoother, or not filling, but removing the volume to make it a bit smoother. So yeah, as you can see, there is this distance between them, and that's what I'm trying to achieve right now. I'm just trying to get this distance in between the place. As you can see, there is this concave shape in between, so I'm just trying to achieve that. And now we can start adding these lines, which are not really looking like they're supposed to look. So I think I'm gonna start adding these lines. And okay, so from this particular angle, you can clearly see how these lines are going, and I can just give it a draw. I can just draw these lines out to see exactly how they're supposed to go. Okay. I think that was not accurate to the side view. I think side view is going to give us much more information on how these lines are supposed to go. So I am going to rely on the side view a bit more. Or maybe I'm just going to add this to the camera so that it would be easier for us um, to judge. It would be easier for us to judge judge this particular part. And as you can see, it is actually much more closer to our model, which means we were doing good, right? And yeah, after adding the cameras, I can clearly see that where we need to mark the lines. So I am just going to do that. I am just marking the dots, by the way, so that I can basically connect these dots. This is also one of the ways you can do it. Or maybe I've just marked it. No, 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 I've just marked it. I thought that I'm just creating the dots, but I've literally marked the whole part. So yeah, yeah. Okay, so as you can see, all the part is not matching, but it's totally fine. Like again, I've told you, you're not gonna be able to match it 100%. But try to push it as close as you possibly can. Okay, so I am like readjusting the camera because I felt like that it is not really looking good. And as you can see that from this particular view, the eyes are supposed to go a bit back, or maybe this part is supposed to come a bit forward. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so in this case, because his face is a little bit angled uh, down, and but he's looking straight ahead. You can assume that he's actually kind of looking up, right? I hope that made sense. So you cannot really rely on his eyes, like at least the upper eyelid, for the sake of reference. So I'm not really gonna change the upper eyelid just because of this reference. And yes, this is one of the problems that you are going to face with the multi-res modifier. You're gonna see that some of the polygons are just going to shoot out like this, and the way you're gonna be fixing it is you're gonna be using the to spherical, like the spherical fall off in the smooth brush, and then you're just going to smooth this part out. So you have to go around to see where the point is, and then just smooth this part out. If you really need to, you can just increase the strength to whatever you want. In this case, I've used 10. You can also use 100 or 1000. I mean, Blender allows you to do that, so it is totally fine. And yeah, that's how you would be able to fix this part. Just in case if this happened to you before we've reached this point, then I'm really sorry that I had no idea this would happen in the course, by the way. It just happened to be there, and I just happened to know the solution, so I've just shown you there. If so for some reason you didn't had this problem, that you are lucky. But if you were to have this problem and had no idea how to fix this stuff, then now you know how you'd be able to fix it. Just put the fall off of your smooth brush to spherical, and yes, then you'll be able to smooth that particular part out. Okay, so I am going to put the grab brush to sharp so that I can basically just push out this point, as you can see in the reference what I am trying to create. So I only would have been able to create it if the brush would be set up to the sharper fall off, or maybe not. Actually, should actually be able to do it without the sharper fall off, but I think in that particular situation the sharper fall off would have actually have worked better, so that's why I did it. And also you can see that I am kind of destroying the pores here, but it is okay. It's like one of the smaller areas, and I can just add the pores whenever I want. So I'm not really worried about the pores right now. I'm only worried about the bigger lines, like you can see. So yeah, pores can be added a bit later. I mean, these are just few of the pores, and it's not really that big of a deal to add them later. That's why I am just gonna add these. I mean, just why I am just using the clay strip brush and basically destroy all the pores in that particular area, because I know that I'll be able to add them later. And now I'm just flattening these shapes out because I don't think these are like that. I mean, because I don't think these have that much amount of volumes. So yeah. Okay, so I am in the higher subdivision, and you can see some of the pores are still there. You completely does not remove the pores unless you are in the higher subdivision, by the way. So if you are in lower subdivision and if you were try to remove some of the details, you won't be able to do it. You are gonna see those details once you go higher, once you go to the higher subdivision. So that's what's happening right now. And again, I'm just trying to make sure that the volume is right. But the problem is I'm only looking at the volume from one angle. And once I'll start looking at this volume from different angle, you're gonna realize that I might actually have added a bit too much. But it's totally fine. Like, you have to look at your model from each and every angle, even if it is just for the sake of adding this little bit of volume. Okay, so right now, as you can see, I am creating these lines. But one of the things that I'm gonna do in the future is once I start connecting the pores, I am gonna try to create these lines through that. So right now, I'm just like creating those just for the sake of placeholders. But in the future, when I'll actually work on the skin and start connecting the pores, I am gonna be creating these lines simultaneously so that it would like look much more natural, and it would be flowing through the pores. So that's why you can see that I have not really spent that much amount of time on that right now. Yeah, but yes, the likeness is definitely coming, I think. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Your opinion might be different, but every time you see his image, you're gonna see that he is always wearing the specs. In this movie, especially, I think he must have used the contact lenses or something. But yeah, most of the references that I was actually getting online was with the specs, so I had to watch this movie and take screenshots. The problem with the movie is that you rarely find the neutral face. So basically, an actor is always giving an expression. But yeah, because this movie was actually kind of dark. But yeah, because it was not a comedy movie, it was a dark movie. I was actually able to get a whole lot of screenshots with the neutral faces, and this is where this video ends.